All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for coming. 2 months ago, after Trenton experienced a burst of violence over the Memorial Day weekend, we promised this city, and Mayor Gusciora, who's here, that we would take swift action to address gun violence. Earlier this year, we made a similar promise to Patterson, which remains ground zero for opioid-fueled deaths in this state. We promised that we would tackle this crisis as well. Today, we're delivering on those promises. We're announcing the results of 2 major criminal investigations, one in Trenton and the other in Patterson. Investigations that mark a major step forward to end drug-fueled deaths in New Jersey. I'm pleased to announce that thanks to a coordinated effort between local, county, state, and federal law enforcement partners, we've dismantled 2 criminal organizations that plague not only Trenton and Patterson, but also our entire state. Veronica Allende, the director of our Division of Criminal Justice, who's to my right, will give you more details on the investigations. But in broad strokes, our Trenton operation targeted gun and drug trafficking in the city's West End. We arrested a total of 18 defendants, and most critically, we took 22 guns off the streets of our capital city. We allege that these guns, which include 5 assault rifles, were used to support drug trafficking in and around Trenton. We also seized 18 large-capacity magazines, devices that are banned in New Jersey, precisely because they allow a shooter to fire a large number of rounds without ever having to reload. We also seized heroin and fentanyl linked to our state's opioid crisis. As you know, over the past several months, we focused our attention on particularly deadly strains of heroin and fentanyl. Heroin that is packaged in wax folds and stamped with brand names that are associated with a large number of overdoses across our state. In this case, we linked the heroin seized to 19 overdoses in the region, including 10 fatal overdoses. The second operation, called Operation 4K Boyz, focused on drug distribution in Patterson. There, we dismantled 2 major opioid mills, locations where criminals, not chemists, allegedly mixed deadly combinations of heroin and fentanyl and then packaged them into wax folds for sale across our state and across the region. And our investigation has revealed, and we allege, that the wax folds associated with the 4K Boyz operation bear the same brand names as those linked to 38 overdoses, 16 of which were fatal. This operation is the latest example of how we're attacking the opioid crisis in this state, by going after the mills where heroin is packaged, and by stopping the flow of these deadly drugs at their choke point. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, our state is facing 2 public health crises in this moment. We're facing an opioid epidemic and an epidemic of gun violence. And we're tackling both of these crises with the same strategy. We're focusing on prevention, we're focusing on treatment, and we're focusing on enforcement. But when we bring enforcement actions, we do it the smart way, not by rounding up every person on every corner, but by going after the most dangerous criminals and by targeting the sources of the guns and the drugs that plague each of our cities and our streets in this state. This type of targeted enforcement isn't always easy, and it only works when our law enforcement agencies are working together, sharing information and sharing intelligence, exchanging tips and leads, and working our way up to the most significant criminals and the most significant targets. That's exactly what we had in mind 2 months ago when U.S. Attorney Craig Carpenito and I announced the creation of the Trenton Violent Crime Initiative, a project that combines the resources of federal, state, county, and local law enforcement partners and is focused on one shared goal and one shared promise: to make this capital city safer for all of our residents. And we'll continue to deliver on that promise in the future as we're delivering today by working together, by fighting together, and not just in Trenton, in Patterson and all across our state, to protect and to serve all of our residents. Now it's my privilege to turn it over to Director Allende, the director of our state's Division of Criminal Justice, who will provide more details on these two investigations. Director Allende?
Thank you, Attorney General Grewal. I'd like to now take a moment to provide you with a few more details about the two incredible operations in Trenton and Patterson. First, Operation West End was conducted by the New Jersey Division of Criminal Justice, the New Jersey State Police, and the Trenton Police Department. As Attorney General Grewal stated, we arrested 18 defendants, all of whom allegedly were trafficking either weapons or drugs in and around the West End area of Trenton. The biggest cases, in terms of seizures and total arrests, centered on Jeffrey Johnson and his brother Lateef Gibson. They share a house on Atterbury Avenue in Trenton. Johnson allegedly sold 5 handguns on the street during the investigation, conspiring in some instances with a co-conspirator. And Johnson and a different co-conspirator allegedly sold an AK-47 assault rifle with a large capacity magazine. Johnson also allegedly sold 17 bricks of heroin and fentanyl. His brother, Gibson, allegedly conspired with 6 other defendants to sell nearly 110 bricks of heroin and fentanyl, which equates to approximately 5,500 individual doses. 5 additional defendants are charged separately with selling 2 more assault rifles and 5 other firearms. And 3 more defendants are charged separately with selling heroin and/or cocaine. As Attorney General Grewal stated, between controlled purchases and search warrants executed, we seized 22 guns, including 5 assault rifles. In the gun cases, Johnson and 2 other defendants face first-degree weapons charges. The other 5 alleged gun traffickers face second-degree weapons charges. In the drug cases, Gibson and 1 other defendant face first-degree narcotics charges, while the other 8 alleged drug dealers each face second-degree charges. First-degree charges in New Jersey carry a sentence of 10 to 20 years in prison, in state prison. Second-degree charges carry a sentence of 5 to 10 years in state prison. Many of the weapons charges carry mandatory periods of parole ineligibility. Johnson, Gibson, and 7 other defendants are being held in jail pending detention hearings. 3 defendants are being held in jail on prior charges, and the remaining 6 defendants were released subject to conditions. The second operation I'll provide details on is Operation 4K Boyz, yet another incredible operation and collaborative investigation conducted by the Division of Criminal Justice and the Patterson Police Department. This operation targeted a heroin and fentanyl distribution network in Patterson allegedly led by Kashard Whitaker. Whitaker is a founding member and leader of the 4K set of the Blood Street Gang. Whitaker allegedly was buying approximately 25 to 30,000 wax folds of heroin and fentanyl per week and distributing them to his network, which further distributed them to dealers and customers. As the Attorney General stated, this network allegedly was dealing wax folds of heroin stamped with brands that are the same brands that have been linked to 16 fatal and 22 non-fatal overdoses. The DEA and Homeland Security investigations assisted us in this takedown last Friday. We have charged Whitaker with first-degree promoting organized street crime. That charge carries a sentence of 15 to 30 years in state prison, consecutive to the sentence for any underlying crime. The 2 alleged primary mill operators, Miguel Guerrero Santana and Carlos Nunez, and 3 men who allegedly assisted in their operations are each charged with first-degree maintaining or operating a narcotics production facility and first-degree possession of heroin with intent to distribute. Those charges carry a sentence of 10 to 20 years in prison. And operating a narcotics production facility carries a mandatory minimum term of parole ineligibility equal to 1/3 to 1/2 to the sentence imposed. The other defendants in Patterson face second-degree and/or third-degree drug charges. Whitaker, Guidero Santana, and Nunez, and one other defendant were ordered detained in jail pending trial. We are seeking detention for a fifth defendant, and the others were released subject to conditions. In closing, these were undoubtedly outstanding operations, and I cannot thank enough and say enough about the hard work and courageous efforts our investigative teams took in these takedowns. I cannot thank all of the agencies and individuals who assisted us, but they are listed in our press release. By joining forces to carry out strategic investigations of this type, we are having a real impact on public safety all across our state, and particularly in some of our most dangerous cities. Each gun we take off the streets is potentially a murder or serious shooting that we prevent. Each dose of heroin or fentanyl that we seize is potentially an overdose averted. We will continue to do everything in our power to reduce violence and improve the quality of life for our residents in Trenton and Patterson and in our other communities across New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. It's now my pleasure to turn the podium over to Trenton Police Director Sheila Coley. Sheila?
Thank you, General. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to say that when I started with Trenton, my mayor, Reed Gucciara, he gave me one directive: to reduce the violent crime in the city of Trenton. And then I, in turn, made a promise to the residents of the city of Trenton. And I told them that I would use every resource that was available to me to wrap our arms around the violence that was occurring in the city. It wasn't important to me as it was that it stopped. And I also said that I would reach out and I would call. I didn't mind picking up the phone and asking. And for every ask that I've made, I received an answer in full force. As you can see with all of the people standing around me, this is the result of an ask on a federal, state, and local level. We needed help. They came to our aid. And as a result of that, since May 1st, we've made over 1,600 arrests. During that same time period, we recovered over 95 weapons off the street. That's a lot of arrests and a lot of weapons in a short period of time. Without my partners on the stage with me, in particular the state police who comes out and help us every week, we could not begin to stem the tide of violence that has plagued the city of Trenton. But with their help, we believe that we're stemming the tide, we're taking a turn, and we're reducing the crime. We haven't won the battle, nor have we won the war, but we think we're showing a good face, and we're going to continue to stand with our partners, to take those who would do ill will to the city of Trenton and the residents who reside there. We will do everything in our power. We will use every resource available to us, and we will continue to fight a good fight until we win the war of violence in the city of Trenton. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Coley. I want to now invite up Chief Troy Oswalt from the Patterson Police Department, an incredible partner in these efforts as well. Chief?
Thank you, General. And when I say thank you, General, I mean thank you, General, for everything. How do these operations begin? Where does it come from? Is it some master plan? I'm just going to give you a story. Story happens that the General takes over, and he turns to me and says, "Troy, how can I help you?" is how it began. And I said, "General, what I really need right now is long-term investigations." And without even probably getting that sentence out, I had the full power of the Attorney General saying, we will start a long-term investigation. We don't have the resources, we don't have the personnel to run a long-term investigation, and it started way back then. So again, General, thank you. Thank you for the Attorney General's office for all the help that they did to address this heroin problem that we have in the city of Patterson, this fentanyl problem that we have in the city of Patterson. Without the help of also the state police on the enforcement side and investigative side, also working with us hand in hand at nights from wee hours to the morning to address these problems. It all begins with personal connections and organizations willing to build a partnership to address this. Because as of one organization, we will not succeed. But the only way we will succeed is with the assistance that the general you gave me, that the state police give me now, and the general continues to give me to address these problems, to deal with this heroin problem that we do have. So again, thank you very much for all of your help. I couldn't have done it without you, and thank for all of the police officers and everyone that helped us in the organization. Thank you again, General.
Thanks, Troy. Now it's my privilege to call up the Deputy Superintendent of the New Jersey State Police. As you've heard from the remarks this afternoon, the state police play a critical function to public safety all across New Jersey. And Deputy Superintendent Jeff Noble is going to share a few remarks about the state police's involvement, but I want to thank them personally for all of their efforts, because the answer is always yes. When we say, can we do this in Trenton? The answer is always yes. Can we do this in Patterson? The answer is always yes. So Jeff, please.
Thank you, General. We are incredibly proud to stand here today with our partners at the federal, county, state, local level. It is what we do. It is who we are. When that bell rings and the New Jersey State Police is called for help, we proudly raise our hand and offer any resources and capabilities that we can. And it's important to note that those capabilities go far beyond the uniformed patrol trooper. Those capabilities include investigative assets, technical assets, forensic assets, intelligence assets, and the list goes on and on. And we proudly offer those assets to our partners, and with the ultimate goal of working together to make this state safer. I would also be remiss if I didn't take a moment and commend and thank the brave men and women that are on the front lines of this war. The frontline law enforcement men and women from the local city police departments, the county police, the state police, the other state law enforcement agencies, Division of Criminal Justice, and our federal partners are out there day in and day out, making a tremendous amount of personal sacrifice to their lives and putting themselves in harm's way. And that is a tremendous ask that we all here on this podium and at this dais ask of our men and women that do this work. And on behalf of all of us on this dais, I want to thank them for their hard work. The dangerous drugs and the dangerous guns don't seize themselves. It takes these folks to go out there, often in very perilous conditions, and seize these dangerous drugs and guns. And for their efforts, I want to thank them, commend them all, from all the different law enforcement agencies that you see here today. And with that, I want to renew our continued commitment to the city of Trenton and to others that we stand here with you, and we are not going away. Thank you. Thank you, General.
Before we take your questions, I just want to say that these two operations would not have been possible without the help of an extraordinary team of prosecutors and law enforcement officers. And so I briefly would like to acknowledge the individuals involved. For Operation West End, under the direction of Director Veronica Allende and Chief of Detectives Weldon Powell, who's also here this afternoon, the Division of Criminal Justice, Gangs and Organized Crime Bureau. Under the direction of Superintendent Pat Callahan, the New Jersey State Police Crime Suppression Central Unit. And under the direction of Director Sheila Coley, the Trenton Police Department, Street Crimes Unit and SWAT Team. I'd also like to thank those agencies who offered assistance during the arrests and takedowns of this case: the Mercer County Prosecutor's Office, the Hamilton Police Department SWAT Team, the Middletown Township Police Department, U.S. Attorney Craig Carpenito, who couldn't be here, but we're joined by Attorney in charge of the Trenton office, Nick Grippo. The U.S. Attorney's Office, and this is important to note, is reviewing these cases for adoption for federal prosecution. That's the other part of this partnership. It's not about who gets the credit for the arrest or the prosecution. It's about where these cases are best made and where we are best able to send that deterrent message. And so I want to thank them for that incredible partnership. For Operation 4K Boys, the Division of Criminal Justice, Gangs and Organized Crime Bureau North Team, under the direction of Director Spezial and Chief Oswalt, the Patterson Police Department Narcotics Division and Criminal Investigations Division, the New Jersey State Police Intelligence Section, and the Drug Monitoring Initiative. I'd also like to thank the DEA Newark office, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Homeland Security Investigations Newark office for their assistance during the arrests and takedown of the 4K Boys operation. And before I go to your questions, let me also say this. During our Trenton operation, I mentioned that we seized 22 firearms. And we're going through this slow process now of tracing those firearms to figure out where they originated from. And we're putting those firearms through the NIBIN system to see if they link up to homicides or to other crimes. That's an arduous process, but that's part of this investigation because it doesn't end with the takedown. But here's the other thing. I don't have to wait for those trace results to know that probably 80% or more of those firearms that we seized here didn't originate in New Jersey. They came from out of state more than likely. Our gun stat, which the state police runs, shows pretty much consistently that over 80% of the firearms in this state originate out of state. And so while we may be doing a great job here in this state fighting the epidemic of gun violence by passing very strict laws, by enforcement operations like the one we're announcing today, taking down criminal organizations that are peddling guns, or like we did in Camden 18 months ago, a very similar announcement where we stopped a ring that was bringing firearms in from Ohio where it's simply too easy to get a gun and selling those firearms into the streets of Camden. I would just hope that other states, other attorneys general step up to do their part. And it's heartening for me as an attorney general to see that Josh Shapiro, the attorney general of Pennsylvania, a friend and a partner in this effort, is taking the initiative in his state by doing the type of tracking and tracing that we're doing here in New Jersey, by sharing information and by sharing intelligence and by making this a priority over there. But it's not the prosecutions alone. Those legislatures have to step up in those states where it's simply far too easy to obtain a firearm. Because we could do all we can in New Jersey. If we can't stem the flow from these other states, it's going to be an endless cycle, and we need to break these cycles. So with that, I'll turn it over to the questions we have here. David?
General, speaking of cycles, we have all been here for similar types of news conferences where busts are made, and it almost seems like a revolving door where you've got one group that gets taken down in this kind of an operation, then you get the next one that comes in. Is this frustrating? Is there a sense of mission that all of you guys have collectively in the work that you're doing, and you have a message for the next group of criminals who will take over the operation and ultimately get taken down?
Absolutely. The message is loud and clear by the presence on this dais. We're not going anywhere, and we're working together, and that they will be prosecuted by state, local, and federal partners, and that we are going to be persistent in our efforts. And here's the other thing. When we take those guns off the street, we also are seizing vehicles. We're seizing assets. We are putting a dent in these operations to make it difficult for them to reestablish themselves. And I understand that somebody else might fill that void, but to whoever else might be thinking about filling that void, they should take a long, hard look at this dais, that the commitment shown here today is not something we've seen over the last number of years. We've had collaborations, but I think the strength of the collaboration with this violent crime initiative that the U.S. Attorney and I announced in May is something different. It may have happened in the past, but the partnership that we have now is something for other states to model, and it's something that we've replicated in other parts of this state quite effectively. So we're not going anywhere. Whoever might think about coming and filling the void left by the organizations that have been eliminated by these operations, again, take a long, hard look at this stage before you decide to engage in this type of conduct. Yes, sir.
Attorney General, can you say when the operations in each city began and when they ended?
I don't have the exact dates, but they're in our press release. These are long-term investigations, as Chief Oswalt said. A lot of different techniques were employed to dismantle these organizations. The West End is a collection of different operations. It's not one large group, so it's dismantling individual groups that were engaged in similar conduct in a particular area of the city. But we can get you the specific details from the court documents. Was there another hand on this side or no? Yes, sir.
Can I also just ask, it was about a year ago that the governor signed a half dozen new gun-related bills into law.
Yeah.
If any of those are reflected in the charges that you brought against people?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, we used the new large capacity magazine law that was put into effect last year that made it illegal to have a large capacity magazine that carried over 10 rounds. And that's the point. Those new laws are additional tools that we could use as levers to take down these criminal organizations and to send these deterrent messages. Quite often, the criticism about those types of laws revolves around the infringement of rights. And we won those cases in the district court, in the Third Circuit, saying that that was a lawful exercise of our authority to pass that law, that it was reasonable, that it was just. And we're not going into people's homes to seize large capacity magazines. That's a tool that we use in criminal prosecutions, that if during the course of a criminal prosecution and investigation we identify these large capacity magazines, that's another charge for us to use to send a deterrent message to individuals engaged in criminal conduct. So we did employ that particular tool, and we'll continue to employ every tool that the governor and legislature give us in this ongoing fight to end the cycle of gun violence. If there's no other questions, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank Mayor Gusiora for his partnership. Mayor, we're here for you. We're not going anywhere. I know there's a big list. We're going down that list and trying to give you the tools you need so the residents of this capital city can enjoy peace in the summer and for the months and years to come. So